Chapter 24. Who do you think that is that has come to the shop? And so Edward Tulane was mended, put together again, cleaned and polished, dressed in an elegant suit, and placed on a high shelf for display. From the shelf, Edward could see the whole shop, Lucius Clark's workbench, and the windows to the outside world, and the door that the customers used to enter and leave. From the shelf, Edward saw Bryce open the door one day and stand in the threshold, the silver harmonica in his left hand flashing brilliantly in the sunlight flooding in through the windows. "Young sir," said Lucius, "I was afraid that we made a deal." Here he is. Does that make you sad? Makes me sad. Sweet Bryce. Look how good Edward looks now. "Can I see him?" said Bryce. He wiped his hand across his nose, and the gesture filled Edward with a terrible feeling of love and loss. I just want to look at him." Lucius Clark sighed. "You may look," he said. "You may look, and then you must go and not come back. I cannot have you in my shop every day mooning over what you have lost." "Yes, sir," said Bryce. Lucius sighed again. He got up from his workbench and went to Edward's shelf and picked him up and held him so that Bryce could see him. "Hey, Jangles," said Bryce. "You look good. The last time I seen you, you looked terrible. Your head was busted in." "He is put together again," said Lucius, just like I promised you he would be." Bryce nodded, and he wiped his hand across his nose. "Can I hold him?" "No," said Lucius. Bryce nodded again. "Tell him goodbye," said Lucius Clark. "He is repaired. He has been saved. Now you must tell him goodbye." "Goodbye," said Bryce. "Don't go," thought Edward. "I won't be able to bear it if you go." "And now you must leave," said Lucius Clark. "Yes, sir," said Bryce. But he stood without moving, looking at Edward. "Go," said Lucius Clark. "Go." "Please," thought Edward, "don't." And Bryce turned, and he walked through the door of the doll mender's shop, and the door closed, and the bell tinkled, and Edward was gone. He wasn't gone, he was alone. Bryce was gone. He wanted to be gone, but he couldn't be. He was alone. So here's the shop. There's all those dolls. China dolls. Technically, of course, he was not alone, even though he felt alone. Lucius Clark's shop was filled with dolls, lady dolls and baby dolls, and dolls with eyes that opened and closed, and dolls with painted-on eyes, dolls dressed as queens, and dolls wearing sailor suits. Edward had never really cared for dolls. He found them annoying and self-centered, twittery, and vain. This opinion was immediately reinforced by his first shelf mate, a china doll with green glass eyes and red lips and dark brown hair. And she was wearing a green satin dress that fell to her knees. "What are you?" she said in a high-pitched voice when Edward was placed on the shelf next to her. "I'm a rabbit," said Edward. The doll let out a small squeak. "You're in the wrong place," she said. "This is a shop for dolls, not rabbits." Edward said nothing. "Shoo," said the doll. "I would love to shoo," said Edward, "but it's obvious I cannot." After a long silence, the doll said, "I hope you don't think that anyone is going to buy you." Again, Edward said nothing. "The people who come in here want dolls, not rabbits. They want baby dolls or elegant dolls, such as myself, dolls with pretty dresses, dolls with eyes that open and close." "I have no interest in being purchased," said Edward. The doll gasped. "You don't want anyone to buy you? You don't want to be owned by a little girl who loves you?" Sarah, Ruth, Abilene. Their names went through Edward's head like the notes of a sad, sweet song. "I have already been loved," said Edward. "I have been loved by a girl named Abilene. I have been loved by a fisherman and his wife, and a hobo and his dog. I have been loved by a boy who played the harmonica, and by a girl who died." "Don't you talk to me about love," he said. "I have known love." This impassioned speech shut up Edward's shelfmate for a considerable amount of time. "Well," she said at last, "still, my point is, no one is going to buy you." They did not speak again. The doll was sold 2 weeks later to a grandmother who was purchasing it for her grandchild. "Yes," she said to Lucius Clark, "that one right there, the one with the green dress, she is quite lovely." "Yes," said Lucius, "isn't she?" And he plucked the doll from the shelf. Goodbye and good riddance, thought Edward. The spot next to the rabbit stayed vacant for some time. Vacant means empty. And day after day the door to the shop opened and closed, letting in early morning sun or late afternoon light, lifting the hearts of the dolls inside, all of them thinking when the door swung wide that this time, the person entering the shop would be the one who wanted them. Edward was the lone contrarian. He prided himself on not hoping, on not allowing his heart to lift inside of him. He prided himself on keeping his heart silent, immobile, closed tight. I am done with hope, thought Edward. And then one day at dusk, right before he closed the shop, Lucius Clark placed another doll on the shelf next to Edward. Do you notice anything about her face? And do you notice anything about Edward's face? How many pieces was he broken into? 21? Does it look like she's got some lines in her face as well?